far.
Yeah.
But especially Shea showed up. I thought J-Dub was awesome throughout the game to keep him in it and give them some pressure because they had 10 assists, made 3 threes. Just a crazy game. I don't even know who I would pick to win the series anymore. I really do think that it's a coin flip. I'm not sure if it's listed like that on the gambling sites per se, but that's where I'm at with that.
Yeah, I didn't see that part coming. I thought Thunder would just handle it, but pleasant surprises.
How we doing? How many people we got in here right now? What are we rocking with?
We're just launching on the YouTubes.
Just give me a number. Give me a call, because if we don't have enough people trickling in as it is, or if we have a lot of people trickling in, I want to give them more time to get in here. But if we only got a couple stragglers, we'll just get underway here.
Yeah, we're good, I think, just to roll out.
We got stragglers. Okay, hi, stragglers. How are you? Again, if you have any questions, Katie related, number 10 pick related, number 9 pick related, 14 pick related, like that late lottery range, anyone you want to hear about, or at the end of the first round, you got Bradley Beal questions, other off-season questions, we will take them. Kevin will read a couple throughout the episode, but now I'm going to do the thing now. This is going to be very weird and bizarre for loyal listeners to see, but I'm going to do the thing. You want to see how I do it? Here we go. Hello there, and welcome to the Empire of the Suns podcast. My name is Kellan Olson, joined, as always, by Kevin Zimmerman. What up, man?
Howdy. Mark that. That's the start of the podcast. We're off.
That's how we do it. So we are streaming this live on YouTube and Twitter. We might be doing this occasionally in the future. I don't know, but essentially the purpose of this is we're the guinea pigs, and if Kevin Durant gets traded while we're not on the air, on the radio airwaves, they want someone in here chatting KD. And in this podcast studio, so we're testing everything out here. So if the KD trade does happen in the middle of this podcast, we're going to make a call depending on when it is, and we will either just intro straight into a new episode where we're reacting as it happens, or we'll just keep rolling.
I don't think it's going to happen today.
It depends on what it is. I don't think it's going to happen today either. I still feel confident for what it's worth with my prediction of a week from today. And we can kind of get into that right now. It's leverage season.
Yeah.
I think that Gambo's reporting especially has offered a lens into how these things typically work. And something that inside baseball, we won't get into much of it, but you and I have talked about a lot over the last year and a half when we were getting really frustrated, is so much gets reported now. It's just an obscene amount of information that we get, and like almost nothing gets hidden anymore. I'm not saying KD's negotiations and like his preferred teams wouldn't have gotten out 2 or 3 years ago, but we're getting so much, and it's been interesting to see like Gambo's reporting sort of be coming out in other spaces now over the last couple of days, when like his inside track early kind of gave us this jump start to, oh man, all this information, so many things are happening. Is this going to get done over the weekend? Is this going to happen in the next couple of days? It still feels like the momentum is there, and yet we've seen this a lot where leveraging is happening. Kevin releases, he and boardroom CEO Rich Kleiman released his list of 3 preferred teams. It is the Spurs, Rockets, Heat. It is not the Timberwolves. Sham saying Kevin doesn't want to go to Minnesota. Maybe, I don't know how he phrased it exactly. You'll remember that Jimmy Butler held the Miami Heat hostage to get to Phoenix for 6 to 8 weeks, didn't go to Phoenix, went to Golden State, and then signed it anyway.
Didn't want to go to Memphis for sure.
We have seen this kind of stuff happen before, where the guy ultimately will sign the deal anyway, and I think that if one of those outside three teams trades for him, they'll know they have a decent shot anyway at him signing it. Maybe he stands on business like that. I don't know. But then, like today, it's Windhorse's report where the Suns don't like the offers they're getting right now. So again, it's the two sides going back and forth, and we'll see when the Suns decide they have to do this by. My guess is the reason why they want to get it done by the end of this week, which is Gambo was reporting he expects it to happen this week. Now, he's on the air as we speak, so maybe there's some new information. There is new information he's dropping for sure, but I don't know if the timeline is still the same deal that he's putting down. But I think the Suns want to get ahead of this because they wouldn't be done. Like, they would be looking to get more trades done beyond this one, and maybe some of the pieces that they would be getting back, they would be sending elsewhere. Yeah. Maybe the reason why they're being so patient right now is because there's a 3rd, 4th, 5th team that's doing other stuff, and they're waiting for them to get other stuff done, and they have other possibilities that they could be waiting on. But I think this is going to drag out a couple more days. I'm ready to be wrong, but that's where I'm at right now.
I don't think they are in a major rush other than just trying to get the market flowing and get some advancing if there's bidding or whatever have you. I'll go to the questions on the YouTube. One is, please give us your takes on how the Desmond Bane trade either affects or doesn't affect the inevitable KD trade. And I think to your point just now on, like, that happened. I don't know why that happened, but now you can say, okay, Memphis is trying to do other stuff. I don't think the Magic are trying to do other stuff, but Memphis might do other stuff. And can more complicated KD trades go into that? I don't think he's going to go to Memphis, right? But can they loop into what Kevin Durant wants to do, a secondary move if the Suns do make the KD move and then make a trade with Memphis? I don't know, but like that kind of thing might be something to keep in mind, just as other teams are showing signs that they also want to do some major changes. I don't know. Does that move really set the market with the first round draft picks and all that stuff? Like, I'm not sure it really changes how we think of the KD deal.
I don't think it does. I think it's a subjective thing where you can. I don't think it's like an objective truth is what I'm saying. Like,
yeah.
I don't think that it for sure does not change the market. I don't want to say that. But the interesting part of this is I say that, and you've got a GM who's never done this before and an owner who has had. I've been thinking about this a lot this week and last weekend too, is that Matt Ishbia came in, he made a phone call to Joe Tsai, and then the deal was done. Like it was like he called Joe Tsai, they talked about a couple of things, the Brooklyn Nets owner, and then the two GMs got back on the phone together, and then the deal was done. Every other trade so far, I would assume, has been pretty difficult. We know the Beal attempt during the season was difficult. We know the Durant attempt during the season was difficult, and this one is proving to be difficult again for someone who has said like he's not naturally a patient person. It's a really interesting sort of line in the sand moment for that part of this whole equation, but also to get back to the question, I think it's reasonable to see that and be like, no, how can you offer us one first round pick for Kevin Durant when we have 4 or 5 going for these guys? I want to shout out Matt Moore, who does great work. He had a thread that I generally agree with on Twitter where he wrote, we need to have a discussion about this. There is not a quote-unquote market in the NBA because the Grizzlies got 4 picks for their third best player does not mean you will get 7 for your second best. That's not how this works. This is what we're willing to part with for this player because he matters more to us. And I think that's a really, really good point because what Desmond Bane is worth to the Magic is not what he is worth to even the Suns. For example, like what would the Suns actually give up for Desmond Bane? Certainly not even close
to
what Orlando.
Close,
even if they had something to give up, that's right. So I don't think it really affects much at all. If I'm being honest,
it's apples to oranges. Like he's obviously the age thing matters, but also he's not entering a contract year with an extension eligible. Like all that stuff matters. Like he's under contract until 2029, 30. Yeah, so like that's not even in the same ballpark of consideration, even if you don't even like look at how good each player is, who they are. Like team control matters in that scenario, and that's why Mikal went for so much last summer because of that team control.
If it has any relevance to the Suns, I would say it's just a reminder for how much you could get for Devin Booker if you wanted to trade him.
Yeah,
right now, which
that's true.
They don't want to do. He wants to stay here, so we'll leave it at that for now. I wrote a story on ArizonaSports.com. You wrote a story on ArizonaSports.com where you looked through like the salaries and just like kind of the basic, like here's who would probably be in a deal. I went a step further and was basically like, okay, we know a package from Houston or Minnesota or whatever. That's like one of the great things about this type of thing happening and like elongating is like so many Suns fans by now know or have a very good idea of like what they'd get back from these teams. Just
it gives you a week or two to like accept reality.
So now everyone's like Khalil Ware is a future like 9-time All-Star, or I don't really want Khalil Ware, or RJ Barrett is a scrub, or Jakob Poeltl would be a great addition to like everyone has their opinions formulated on like all these sort of random pieces that aren't so random anymore because we know who would be included. And I looked specifically beyond that and was like, okay, what is the holdup for all of these sorts of teams? Because the way Gambo phrased it on Friday, which makes sense, again, like leveraging and like how these things kind of go, he basically said like there's a leader in the clubhouse and it's on the other teams to beat that offer right now. So it's on Houston to give up the number 10 pick in this year's draft, or it's on Houston to find a third team to send Jalen Green to. It's on Miami to offer a 2031 first and a 2032 first, and the Suns to be like, no, let's send that to Brooklyn. Can you get us Nick Claxton or Cam Johnson? Minnesota, we're not going to not get either Rob Dillingham or Terrence Shannon. We need one of them. We probably want Dillingham. We still want 14.
Yeah.
After that, with Toronto, I think like number 9 is a swing point for sure. But I think Toronto is the biggest example of the team I talked about where they have all these bloated salaries, and this would help them get rid of them. And even if it goes a year with KD and that's it, they'd still be like, okay, well, we got off RJ Barrett's money.
Yeah.
Pirtle was leaving anyway. It cost us the number 9 pick, but we already have so many guys as it is. And by guys, I just mean like they have Brandon Ingram, they have Scotty Barnes, they have Emmanuel Quickly. Like they have a lot of, not talent, but in terms of like fitting someone in that's like the number 9 overall pick that's put in a significant position. Like they're like the Carter Bryant team. They're the Thomas Sorber team. They're the Derek Queen team. So it would be valuable to them, but I think the draft picks are valuable to different teams. Do you feel any differently? Like have a more defined opinion now, sort of, because you were just like, oh yeah, Toronto seems like it would kind of make sense. I still believe Minnesota, because I still believe the Suns are going to look for mainly a ready now return.
Yeah.
Where are you at?
I mean, I tend to like the Clippers, but they don't have the draft capital, and I tend to like the Raptors just because I like their players and probably value them more. Like, you get a starting center out of it. If you got RJ Barrett, like whatever with Beal happens, I still think he could play alongside Book. Now, is he going to be the same player he was last year? Probably not, but it's 18 points per game, a guy who can be on the ball and take pressure off Book, and you're in a decent spot if Beal really is gone. So, and again, I think the number 9 pick's super important. The number 9 or 10 out of this is going to be kind of like a realistic, like you're not getting number 2 from the Spurs, I don't think, but 9 or 10, I think, is something that the Suns should really aim for. So.
You're not getting some kind of like the Lakers pick for longtime Suns fans who remember when no. Where did they get the pick originally? Like in what deal? Was it the Nash deal? I can't even remember.
That was just pushed down the road.
The pick that they held forever and were like, this is our golden ticket
Nash
to getting a trade done, and then it wound up being Brandon Knight related, and then that pick went a million directions, as you've illustrated in the past. All right, let's talk draft. For those of you that are new around here and have never, do we have any other KD questions you want to get to before we turn off KD? I will say, I said this on the radio, and I saw like a thread that was like, bozo alert, bozo alert. I mean, I'm the bozo, and if you can't tell.
Where is Burns and Gambo? LOL. They're on another feed, correct? Yeah, sorry if we're taking up. We actually have 2 live feeds on the YouTubes right now.
Yeah, so just click on the Arizona Sports like channel on your phone or your computer or whatever, go to live, and then you'll find them instead.
The chat's you guys are very realistic. We aren't getting a lot back for KD, basically. You guys are smart. You know.
Okay, well, yeah, I said that just being like, for radio talk purposes, there will be like was it worth trading KD if this was the return? And I do think it's going to be something along those lines, but I do say that when it could be, I say that thinking like Jalen Green, Jabari Smith, and 10.
Yeah.
Which I think would be a good return. Like if you could get, I don't know where like the league sources behind the corner within this and that are familiar with Raptors talks and once took their coffee order 3 weeks ago, sources are bringing up Emmanuel Quickly. I kind of searched through like Quickly stuff and I was like, did he have like a way worse year than I remember? Because I think he's pretty good. But basically,
or are they assuming that he's not part of it? I don't know.
The way it was worded, there was a typo in there. I believe it because the word like either was in that report. It was Jake Fisher and Mark Stein, and it was basically either Emmanuel Quickly and RJ Barrett. I think it was supposed to be or there because the math for like all three of those guys doesn't really work.
Pirtle would have to go with one of them. Yeah.
Quickly, I would much rather have than RJ Barrett. I pulled up his like clean the glass numbers today, and it's just blue for his shooting percentages. It's rough. But I think that it's going to be a solid return where it's fine. But again, like you're just not going to get blown away by what you're going to get. It's just not going to happen. People need to stop bringing up what they used to get. People need to stop looking at what Bane went for. It's just not going to happen. So now we're going to transition into draft talk. And what I was getting to there is if you've never been around for this, we're just going to ramble about a bunch of different names and sort of start with a theme. We want to start with the back end of the lottery just because I think it's fun to talk about and has some intrigue to it. let's say the KD trade happens and they don't get one of these picks, I think it's still worth having a discussion, because it's like, why would you hold firm for number 9 or number 10? Because you would be getting a prospect like this. Is it worth it? So on and so forth. So to go through the order of the draft, here are all the picks that like could be in play, theoretically. Not theoretically, we kind of know. Number 2 is San Antonio. You're not getting number 2, but something I proposed in my story is, can you work out a 3-team trade where Brooklyn trades up from 8 to 2, San Antonio moves down to 8, and then you get 8? Like, okay. I wonder if there's some sort of trade that can get done there. Toronto is at 9. Houston is at 10. San Antonio is at 14. I'm not going to mention Memphis. I don't think they're in this. 17 is Minnesota. And then Brooklyn also has 19, 26, and 27.
Ooh.
Yeah, they have 4 first-round picks, so they have a reason to like get this done. They're pretty depleted from a talent perspective, so taking 4 swings. Washington, I think, was the team last year that took Sarr, George, and there's one more player that I'm forgetting off the top of my head, where they had 3 firsts and just like went crazy.
Pittsburgh guard.
Oh, our boy, Bub Carrington. We love Bub.
Yeah.
Bub had a good rookie year, from what I heard. You're not going to believe Kev wasn't watching.
I did not watch very much of that.
Had a good year, according to the people who were watching him. And then Miami at number 20. I'll start.
Okay.
I'm trying to think of the way to say this. I think that based on a decade of watching this, knowing what teams like, and still the relatively older thinking that is in front offices in terms of traits, what works in the NBA, what doesn't, I think that 7 of the 8 guys, there's a list of 7 that are going to be gone by 9, no matter what.
Okay.
That is Cooper Flagg, who's going to go number 1, Dylan Harper, who's going to go number 2, and then it's going to be in some order: Ace Bailey, VJ Edgecombe, Trey Johnson, Kamal Malawach, Con Knipple, and I think there is sort of where it stops. So those 7 guys. And then from there, I think that there's a pretty sizable drop, and that would probably be where the Suns pick. I'm struggling to put together my words here on how I feel about this part of the draft, because what's going to happen is there's going to be, I have like 10 names in front of me right now. I believe it is 9. One of these 9 guys is going to be one of the 3 best players in this class. I have no idea who it's going to be, and 5 of them are going to be out of the league within 5 years probably. It's very upside heavy is what I'm saying. Jeremiah Fears, as an example, can get by anyone, and I mean anyone, and has like a guy's handle is good when you talk about his handle this much in the scouting thing. Shooting, I don't know. He's small. The defense isn't great. And the finishing around the rim isn't so good. But if he just shoots, then he's going to be an all-star for a decade.
Yeah.
So there's so many guys like that, where if Carter Bryant just shoots, he's going to make like $200 million in the league.
Yeah.
Derek Queen, if he gets his conditioning together, figures out how to get his offense going in the creative ways where he would need to be utilized, again, he's an all-star. Joan Berenger from France, if he just does the things he's supposed to do and fills out elsewhere, and what I mean by that is he's an incredibly vertical athlete, very mobile athlete who's just rim runs and defends the rim. Like, that's pretty much all he does. But if he does that really well, he's super valuable. There's so many guys like that where, how do you feel about that concept being most of what the Suns get back value-wise in a trade?
That's the problem, because like Carter Bryant's interesting because out of all this group, like, I know what he translates to. Like, even if his shooting doesn't come around, I know, like, okay, I can trust you to be a jumbo wing. Like, are you Keldon Johnson vibes? Are you going to be better than that? Are you more on the Keshad Johnson, to stick with Arizona guys, level of, like, are just not that good? You're somewhere there, but I know who you are. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't want to say his name. KJ from Illinois, that guy.
Kasparas Yakuchonis.
Yeah, that guy.
Mm-hmm.
He's another one where it's like, man, I just like love the tools in that, but does it translate? Are you good enough as an athlete? Like, there was videos of him just messing with, I think it was Oregon at the end of an Oregon game, where he's just like throwing no-look passes to taunt, basically.
He's like 3
cool.
steps ahead, not 1.
Yeah.
It was ridiculous in some games, yeah.
So those guys are super interesting, and that's where that tier of players you mentioned, Demon from BYU, like,
Yegor, by the way, I looked into this.
Yegor,
Demon.
Yegor, Queen. There's a low floor if he does not hit and the scoring translates efficiently. Like I'm not sure on him. So
you could take someone like Colin Murray Boyles out of South Carolina who has a higher floor, but I would argue that his ceiling is high, but the percentage of him like filling up that gap feels relatively low.
Okay.
To me, Thomas Sorber out of Georgetown I wrote about him on the site. He's in the 29 for 29 series, but I don't think he's gonna be there. But it's one of those like I don't know how this draft's gonna work. We'll see. Situations where if he shoots, like he's going to be really, really valuable. If he just like fills out his frame a little bit more for a guy that already weighs like 255, I think that he's going to be very valuable.
Yeah,
I like it for. It's hard for me to say for sure how much I would like the Suns getting 9 or 10, for example, or even 14. If I knew what else was in the trade. I think I just need to know, like, okay, are you getting Jabari Smith Jr. in the Houston deal? Is it not? Is it just Jalen Green 10 and whatever else? I would not be interested in that. Per se. But if the importance of this pick is going to be magnified, no matter what, it's really going to be there.
Yeah.
I like Yakachonis a lot. I outlined it in the story that I wrote a month ago about the Rockets being the perfect fit. He would be the guy that I would be targeting if I was getting 10 because the NBA for point guards right now is just about shooting off the dribble. And if you can do that, then you put pressure on the defense immediately. And from there, you just need to make reads. And he's awesome at making reads.
Yeah.
The problem is he didn't put enough pressure on the defense consistently and getting downhill and scoring at the basket, things like that. Like he's a big guard. He's like 6'6" as a point guard. But there's some concerns about like what does he do inside of the 3-point line where his reads were difficult sometimes and he got tossed around a bit. Like he was in their non-conference schedule, he looked like he was going to be a top 3 pick.
Yeah.
And then once he got to the Big Ten, he hit some troubles where just because he was a step ahead of with his background overseas and everything, it got to him. But I just think the upside for him as a lead guard with his passing vision and his ability to shoot off the dribble, his percentages are low, but he just took crazy step backs all year. He can get to his step back anywhere at any time. It's not Luka's step back. No one's step back is Luka's, but it's a defined thing that he does all the time.
Okay.
And that's really the big difference. I like Carter Bryant. And I like the idea of just having Carter Bryant and Ryan Dunn next to each other. It's just like how James Jones clearly thought that Ryan Dunn could shoot. They would just need to be absolutely sure that Carter can shoot. I think he can shoot, and I think that he would make at least like 3 or 4 all-defense teams. I think he's an absolute stud on defense.
He has a mechanical release where it looks like he's still reworking it and it's not natural. I will say that, but the results were there. So, like, maybe, but I would expect him to still have some rough patches as a shooter, and then I don't know if we should take much Cooper Flag killing him in the Sweet 16 matters. Cooper Flag probably would kill most people. There are questions for me about just lateral movement. Is he able to switch on twos in the NBA?
I think he does.
I have questions on that,
okay.
but
I think he can cover it once.
Okay.
Yeah, I think he's that good. Dude, there were some games where it was just they don't track deflections. I don't think maybe they do on Synergy, but there were some games where it was ridiculous. It was against ASU, like so it's not a level of competition similar to the conference that they're in. I'll be nice, ASU fans, but where he just put his paws on everything. Like he was absolutely everywhere in that game. Did some ridiculous steal block stuff where I haven't seen them have a perimeter defender like that in college, since Iguodala.
Aaron Gordon.
Aaron didn't play that way in his first freshman year. He defended at a certain level for sure, but he was a lot more of like he was not this version of Aaron Gordon with what his role was. He was like trying to be the best player on the team, Aaron Gordon. Is there anyone else? So that's the problem for me. Is right there I see a dip because like Derek Queen, I hate to be like this simple-minded about something, but if we're talking about conditioning, I'm not out.
Yeah.
But I'm like, oh man, like so we have other concerns on top of conditioning being a thing.
Yeah.
Talk to the kid, make sure that he's a hard worker. Suns will be able to do that. They know those guys. Football character.
Judge someone in character in a 15-minute. I mean, they interview them for days sometimes, but.
And then I think Fears and Yegor are both like incredible upside plays.
Yeah.
Where I would still be fine with it, dude. There are a lot of ways these next 3 years could go if it was just like a complete shot in the dark on Yegor Demon's potential, I'm down. Like that would be fun. The way I described him in the write-up was if KJ Yakuchonis on Illinois was on acid,
Yeah.
like his profile, and that's what it is, because he shot 27 from 3 but took 4.5 a game.
He's also bigger.
Doesn't really shoot that much, but then when he's aggressive, he's way too aggressive. But there's he's a 6'10" point guard who can make every pass, makes every read. I think it was Jay Kyleman on The Ringer I was reading who said, like, this is the best passer in the class.
Okay,
But there are some people who are way out because they don't think he'll shoot or something. Vicini has him 28th on his board, way down there. So
yeah, but it's
Vicini
like,
knows ball, so.
I mean, I'm just looking at, for a reference point, ESPN's big board, and it's like when you get to 19, Danny Wolf's 19, and I'm not just doing this to crap on Michigan for those Michigan fans who think that, but that's where it's like, After that, it just kind of is whatever. And basically from 20 all the way to the back end of the second round, it's like I think you can find some really good talent that's even about-ish.
Yeah, I think that there's a big drop-off at I haven't ranked everyone, but like 12, 13. I think there's a pretty big drop.
Yeah.
And then from there, it's open season. I think there's like a clear 10 guys that need to go, and that's why I feel not so great about 29, just because I think the drop from 20 to 25 and the second round is pretty rough.
Okay.
That's something Vicini wrote about too. That's the NIL stuff. We'll briefly
That's
bring it
true.
up here. Do you have anything else on end of lottery guys? You got any Noah Senge takes you want to fire?
No,
off
I don't
there,
have
brother?
that.
Okay.
Do you want?
You're not going to believe this, but the international wing has a lot of athletic promise, but basketball stuff we don't know yet.
Okay.
Sounds
Who's
familiar
the
to anyone that the Suns
who's the
drafted in
Bruno
the last 10 years.
Bokolov right now? Is it who was
think
I
so.
thinking? Is it?
I think it's him.
You didn't say the name.
I think that's him basically, a Senge. Yeah.
Okay.
I think that's him. I don't know.
Do you want to go
Maybe I'm off base.
buy your 29 for 29 series? Do you want to do it that way?
I think we can just kind of rattle through some names for people to know.
Okay.
In that thinking of a drop off after 20 and 25, guys that should be gone, to be clear. And right now, as we're recording this, Jonathan Gavoni is releasing, he's releasing lists of green room invites. And my thing is, if you're a green room invite, you're not going to be on the board at 29.
No.
A lot of guys are going to be in the green room though. So guys that I brought up in the series that are going to be in the green room. Will Riley out of Illinois is going to be there. Nolan Traore, the French point guard, which is interesting that he's going to be there. Thomas Sorber out of Georgetown is going to be there as well. That's where the list stops. So no Danny Wolf just yet out of Michigan. No Nick Clifford out of Colorado State. No Maxime Reynaud, the center out of Stanford. But there's a couple of names where the names that I wrote about were basically if these guys are on the board, it's a pretty easy decision. I came up with that list a couple weeks ago. I would have tweaked it a little bit if I had come out with it now. So, for example, next week on Monday or Tuesday, I'll have basically here's my top 5 board. And it's we know that these 20-something green room guys are going to be gone. Here's the next 5 that I would take. Do you want to know who? Do you want me to go 5-1 or 1-5? Because I got it right in front of me.
Go 1 to 5.
I have Rasheer Fleming, number 1.
Okay.
Who you brought
Hell
up
yeah.
last week. And there is skepticism here, and it's a weird profile because Rasheer Fleming is a 6'9", 6'10", big/wing. There's some tweener stuff there, but he's got absolutely giant arms. It's
7'5" wingspan.
7'5" wingspan, which makes you believe at the very least he could play some 5, if not play the majority of his time at the 5. I know that there's some one-on-one defense, rebounding concerns that sort of come with that. But basically the pitch here is you're getting a crazy upside play at 29 because there's one version of him, which is that he's playing some 5, maybe a lot of 5. He was an awesome NBA athlete in college in general, so you can imagine what he did in the Atlantic 10 at St. Joseph's.
Mm-hmm.
Great rim runner and a lob threat. They didn't really use him in that way too much from the games that I watched at least. But the three-point percentage, 39, 4.5 a game, so he's at least going to be able to shoot somewhat. Now, is he a good shooter? We'll see. The 5 stuff is tantalizing because the on-ball self-creation, playing the 3 or playing the 4.5 stuff where you have to make a quick decision, that's some of the stuff where he's really behind. But if he's on offense and just being a pick-and-pop guy or being a lob threat guy, he can do both. And he can even do both at the 4 Like if you play him with a stretch 5, he can do that stuff at the 4, which is really fun as well. If you play him at the 4, he's perfect for like what you want out of a modern 4 because he's giant and can move really well, so he can defend a handful of guys on the perimeter, I'll say.
Okay.
Like he's not going to switch onto 1s and move his feet well, but he can defend 3s and 4s, maybe some 2s, maybe a 1 that isn't really moving that well. And then he can provide secondary rebounding and secondary rim protection.
Yeah.
And he's just an explosive athlete, which is already going to appeal to Suns fans anyway. But that value at 29, the way that I wrote it is, it's more like if a 5-star freshman was like raw, basically.
Yeah.
He was a 3-year player at St. Joe's, but I think that there's an obvious opening for what the Suns don't have in terms of a skill set and in terms of an athlete, and he does both things at either position. So I think he would be a no-brainer if he was there at 29.
I actually like when you have the smaller school guy who shoots 53, 54%. Like, he's not playing out of his element. Like, he's not forcing things. The shot selection has to be there, and obviously that's because he's shooting. He's dunking a lot, basically. But, yeah, he is taking, like, almost half his shots from beyond 3 already. So, 39% clip in college. I think that just, to me, that stuff really pops. And, like, you can translate that. And then, yeah, if you're a really good athlete and you develop a couple other things, yeah, put it on the deck once or twice, then you're in a really good spot. And that's obviously where you hope the coaching staff and the Suns help him do those things.
The big negative on him, and this is like become NBA draft experts' like favorite word, processing. Mm-hmm. That is like what's happening on the floor. Basketball IQ. It's a new sexy way to say basketball IQ, basically. And I like it processing better because it makes them sound like you're not calling them an idiot when you say they have low basketball IQ. Vicini has him in the early 30s and says on-court processing is the biggest concern. I saw like 2.5 games of him that I was able to watch, and I didn't see a ton of it, but you see it when you see it. There's like some dumb fouls. There's some like just being a step late. His closeout's weird, like especially on dribble drives is the big one where it's like if you send a double towards him and he's posting up, he's going to make that pass 10 times out of 10. But if you send it like on dribble 3 or dribble 4, anything after the second dribble gets wild real quick, and it doesn't get so great. So that's the pitch on him. And what I'll end with on him and Reynaud, too, is you look at Jordan Ott specifically, player development coach, but he worked with Evan Mobley. Not saying Rasheer Fleming is Evan Mobley at all. What I'm saying is that you talk about a 4 or 5 combo big that can play on the perimeter, play inside. That's a skill set that Ott helped untap even more on the offensive end, and that's what you'd be looking for out of Fleming. I watched Clayton Jr., number 2 on this list, point guard out of Florida. My pitch is, again, fit-based, where Clayton's going to work in the NBA if he goes to a team that allows him to be Walter Clayton Jr. If he goes to a team that doesn't allow him to be Walter Clayton Jr., he's going to be in Europe in 4 years. So the Suns do not have any lead guards on the roster right now. This changes a lot if Brad's going to come back and play next year. I think it changes a lot. But like the secondary scoring, they're going to have like no one to do it right now in this current iteration. We'll see what the trades are and who they get. But even if they bring in a point guard to start over him or another perimeter scorer on the wing or whatever, he's going to be in a position right away to come off the bench and just spark games.
Yeah. The Jalen Suggs, I keep going back to Jalen Suggs, like coming out of college even and now, it's like he's not really a true point, but he's big enough where he can flip. You can play him 1 or 2. He shoots well enough. Like, I think
he's a fantastic shooter.
Yeah.
I'm surprised he's not being billed as the best shooter in the draft. I can't make that claim because I'm not deep into the draft like the experts are. But he's taken over 800 threes in college, and his percentage is nearly 39. And that is with, if you've watched him play before, he's not taking traditional threes. He's taking a bunch of pull-ups to go back to that point with KJ. And he's taking some ridiculous ones on movement where he's at least 90 degrees facing not the basket.
Yeah.
And mid-air, mid-whatever turns. And that's like, and writing that shooter story feature from like 18 months ago, like talking to Damian, talking to Grayson, like that's the stuff that really takes lots of work. And I just think there's a opening there, even if he doesn't develop into like a point guard and like the playmaking, he's okay.
Yeah.
He's not a point guard per se in that facet of his game, at least right now. Defense, he's a one position defender, but he competes on defense, which is good. And the defensive tape was good from what I saw. I think like even if it doesn't work out as a lead guard, he's like a great sixth man. And
Yeah.
I think that the floor ceiling gap is really solid, and
Okay.
I like it at 29. For sure.
Is he athletically like
Underrated.
You think so?
He's incredibly explosive in like vertical movements, lateral movements a bit, but his first step is better than you would think it is.
Okay.
I've got Maxime Reynaud, the center out of Stanford, at 3 on this list. I think he rules. He can't really move that well. Picture Brook Lopez moving now. That's sort of what you're dealing with. Maybe Brook Lopez a little younger, per se. But he's a true stretch 5 in terms of volume. He took over 5 threes a game. Last year was at 35%. And the thing you got to remember about bigs is shooting 36% as a big is equivalent to shooting like 39 as a wing or like an off-ball guy, for sure. Vicini had some really interesting stuff in his scouting profile where once I was watching and knew what he was talking about, I was like, oh, yeah, he just keeps missing pick and pop threes, but every catch and shoot 3 goes in. So it was really interesting where, like, I didn't notice him looking less comfortable per se, but on pick and pop situations, he wasn't making them as much. But when he was, like, in the corner or he was getting, like, someone got a rebound or a loose ball and it kicked out to him, he was making it, like, every time. It was really interesting.
Weird.
Which is, like, a weird part of his shooting profile. Longer approach in shooting the ball. He did take threes when guys were under him, but it takes a sec, and that's something that's going to have to speed up, and when you add range to that formula, it gets a little wonky. The reason why he would be on the board at 29 is you just can't be 100% sure that he's going to be a good shooter.
Yeah.
And that's where you could take a chance on him. I think that interior play, he was a great rebounder. The shot blocking, rim protection stuff was okay. He's going to play a deep drop, and we know what happens with guys in deep drops the longer you go in the playoffs. But again, this is like Fleming and Clayton, where I think worst case, you still get like a valuable sort of bench big kind of thing, but I think the upside as a starter is there. The one thing I'll say on him that I noticed watching games, shout out to the ACC, by the way, I said this with Ryan Dunn last year, like their full games up on YouTube. They put like everything up there.
Yeah.
Passing's way better than people are saying. His assist numbers suck, his turnover numbers suck, but he was doing hub stuff all the time and just wasn't playing in a system and wasn't playing with guys that would have untapped it. It's not like he's one of the 5 best passing bigs in this class, but it's better than you'd think.
Peja Stojakovic's son wasn't helping him out the last. Wait, were they on the same team last few years?
No, that's Berkeley and Stanford. You're mixing up your expensive, fancy California schools. How dare you?
No, he played for both.
It's very rude. Oh, he
last
did?
2 years. Yeah, I don't remember.
He was at Cal before, so he was at Stanford initially.
I forget which order. Yeah.
Shout out ESPN's Jeremy Wu. Hasn't been playing basketball that long. If you're one of those people who buys into that thing, I get people roll their eyes and be like, whatever, like it doesn't matter. Only committed full-time to basketball, apparently, like near the end of his senior year of high school equivalent in France. Started playing in the French league, met a guy named Victor Wembanyama there, became buddies with him. That's cool. Goes to Stanford because he wants to study astrophysics.
Oh.
Had a background in like swimming and chess too. He goes there. He's a walk-on.
So he can process?
He can process. Processing not a problem for him. Process a lot of different things on and off the floor. Does that apply to football character? I don't know.
Yeah, on and off the field.
Goes there, walk on, plays immediately, and then is a starter by the next year. So like the.
Don't you love when you hear stories about people who just happen to be good at something?
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, you just stumbled into it. Okay, that's cool.
It was cool because he moves really like fluid on the floor. He's not fast at all or agile, but he's fluid with his movements. And then when you learn he's like a swimming guy, it's like, oh yeah, that makes sense.
Oh, Alex Len did gymnastics. That was the selling point.
Oh,
on Alex
yeah.
Len. Do you remember that?
There
Sorry
we
to bring
go.
back great memories.
There
Okay.
we go. That's what you're here for.
Yeah.
That Valley of the Sun's background. There it is. 2 more. I'll go quicker here. Adu Thero is the Brian Gregory pick, I think.
Okay.
He'll probably be on the board there. He plays incredibly hard. True 4-position defender. I feel like he can move with anyone. He's the best athlete that I watched.
Okay.
So I don't know if he's the best athlete in the draft, but if I had watched everyone, I would probably still say that he's the best athlete in the draft. He plays super hard. There's like a 2-minute thing in the 29 for 29 series of him just making unbelievable highlight plays, which would have been the best highlight for like any prospect really, and he made like 17 of those plays. It was pretty amazing. Offense ahead of Ryan Dunn. Does some dribble stuff, and by dribble stuff I mean like euros, spin moves where it's one-on-one and no help is really coming to be clear. So drive and kick, I don't think so. But he took almost 7 free throws a game, so he knows how to score in that light. The 3-point shot, we'll see. I like the way that it looks. It doesn't really go in. He didn't take a ton. So it's just the question of, would you be okay with him taking a guy like him at 29 and putting him alongside Dunn? When you talk about what they're contributing on offense and what they're contributing on defense, it's a very similar profile.
I don't know. I get nervous, but at this point, if your best available is there, you do best available and worry about it later. This team is not in a position to be picky.
Yeah. I will say Reynaud is really the only guy here where the combination of athleticism at their size, wingspan, whatever, athleticism and motor, like Clayton, Fleming, and Thero especially are all like very, very good. And then Reynaud's still a giant dude. He's like 7'1", 7'2", wingspan, that kind of stuff. I don't know who I'm putting 5 yet. I don't think I've decided. I said this, and I'm still writing it up. I didn't mention Ryan Kalkbrenner out of Creighton. Very by-the-books, good defensive center for his size. You're kind of be careful with Jacob Padilla listening, our longtime buddy. Easy. Very, very good defensive center. I have a good feeling, intuition, if you will. I'll go that far. He's going to come in the league and be like a plus defender right away. But like, what is he doing? What is he doing on offense? How does it look once the playoffs start, when guys are hunting him on every position and their teams are giving up switches for free and he's out there trying to move his feet? I don't know. I love Tyrese Proctor out of Duke. I almost want to put him 5 here, even though he's in the 40s on some boards. I love Tyrese Proctor.
He can shoot the crap out of it. Was he was shooting like 81% when he went into the Arizona game and like the tournament games before? Like
He was basically over half of his shots last year were threes because he turned into like floor spacer, do it all. He wasn't a point guard. He was more of an off-ball guard, but it was like, I'll get this organized for Knipple and Flag and then just go be in the corner guy.
Yeah.
Defense, I don't really know, but there's some really great, like, whatever version of Lonzo Ball that you like potential with him. And the thing about him is he came to Duke and he was an incredible prospect. You watch some of his tape. I watched a game of his when he was a freshman, and I was like, where's this guy? And that guy was
Why did he
put away?
Yeah.
Because he was just do it all. Sion James, the other guy out of Duke. Sion James, the other guy out of Duke. But, yeah, so I think that any of those four are pretty good. I didn't even mention Coward out of Washington State. I will say it's surprising that he hasn't gotten a green room invite yet, because Draft Twitter loves him. KOC has Cedric Coward 5 on his board. I think it's 15 and 10 for the other two sites, I want to say. I can't remember who has him 10, who has him 15. I think it's Vicine who has him 10 and The Ringer who has him 15. And then ESPN has him in the late first round. They have him like 29 or something crazy. So there's like a lag there in terms of, if you're not familiar, ESPN more of an Intel-based board. That's the one where you can kind of tell how the league feels. As opposed to that, I'm looking through Hugo Gonzalez. I think would be the one international guy that you would want to go for. I don't think the Suns are the right ecosystem to bring over Nolan Traore or Ben Saroff.
No.
If I said that right.
No.
Some people love Noah Penda, the wing out of France. It's just your classic, like, toolsy, plays hard, does some good things on the floor, but basketball stuff, total basketball stuff, I don't know. Got some big news for you.
Yeah.
It's pronounced Bogolyub.
Bogolyub?
Bogolyub.
Bogolyub
Markovic. Love that guy.
I need to still watch tape on him.
Big fan of Jameer Watkins out of Florida State.
Wing?
Scoring guard / wing. Will he be like a 15-point-per-game guy in the league? Not really sure, but he was just like had such cadence to his scoring that I really appreciated when I watched him. And the big buzz out of him coming out of the combine was his defense, which I didn't see on his Florida State tape. I think I caught him when he didn't care about defense or whatever. But to hear that he's got that type of potential, you played Florida State, you know how to defend.
Yeah.
You know the story there. So he's a guy where if he's at 52, I would love. I'm sure there's some people listening who want Cam Jones at 29. Completely understand why. Cam Jones rules.
Yes.
And I think that's it. I like Elijah Martin out of Florida at 52 too, but I think he's going to be long gone by then or agree to a two-way.
Are we missing anyone?
Caleb Love's at 75 for ESPN.
Interesting.
Love that for Caleb. Would love Caleb on a two-way. I think Caleb's an NBA player.
A little tie redundant, but yes.
All right, we did it. We did a full podcast without Kevin Durant getting traded. We'll see if that changes. I think we're safe for at least 8 hours. I feel like we're safe for 8 hours.
Last skim over the comments. KO to the Heat, please. Jeremy likes hearing that. If traded to Minnesota, I do not want Rudy back in any deal.
Well,
we don't need a slow 7-foot center on this team. if they
That's
can't get
33?
McDaniels back.
That's under contract for 3 more years and is at the age when most men his size tend to drop significantly in their abilities. Okay.
Another guy. Okay, that was Jim Prescott. No Rudy. Johnny Ray Lopez. Rudy would be cool from Minnesota. Everyone is crazy. Dude anchors defense. People are afraid to attack the basket with him.
He's good. If you get
That's
Rudy
true.
Gobert right now for 3 years, I love it. I just don't think you're getting Rudy Gobert right now for 3 years.
It's Rudy Gobert next year. Yes, that's... Yeah. All right. I think that's it.
Okay.
Thanks for following along, everyone, on this test.
Any more confused viewers looking for Burns and Gambo and not these two?
Jeremy was in
Idiots.
the chat
Oh, that's
taking
nice.
care of stuff. I didn't see that.
Thank you, Jeremy. Would you give up Khalil Ware for KD?
No.
Yeah, it's the
Heat,
classic
resident Heat fan does not want that.
Would you give up Jaime Jaquez Jr.? Is that okay? Can we
Is
have
that
him?
okay?
Can we have Jovic and Jaquez? Oh, okay.
Can we have Pell Larson
I think-
since we're at it? Okay, cool.
I think it was Barry Jackson who tweeted that it was like his thought was like Rozier, Robinson, Jovic.
The Heat
and a
have
first.
dude. The Heat do have like the package. If you're just like, I just don't want to pay people to play basketball. After I pay people to not play basketball, I'm just gonna
Oh,
eat
Sarver would have done the deal with the Heat.
like Rozier, Duncan.
Yeah.
Thanks. Here's some money. Go sign with another team.
Oh,
the Giannis
okay.
trade, okay.
Jeremy says that Giannis, they'll get Giannis because they trade Ware then. I do think that's a thing. I think Simmons brought that up on his pod like 2 episodes for them ago where it was like, I don't think Houston should do this right now because they should just, the trade doesn't make a ton of sense for them and they can just hold everything if Giannis becomes available later. But it's this weird thing of like, okay, if Giannis isn't available right now, what makes you think that he would be available in 6 months? It's weird. I don't know. He also just keeps calling Ishbia Sarver.
Really?
Like he just calls him
Accidentally?
Sarver. No, like accidentally,
It's a
I
bit?
think.
It's a bet
I
now?
don't think it's a bit.
Oh.
But yeah, to that point, and I just wanted to end on that. Like again, Sarver would have just dumped this for cash. to get
Different
out, and,
people.
like,
very
that's it.
different
Yeah,
people.
Very different
for
people,
very
to say the least.
many reasons.